the perfection of God. Our Shaykh has dedicated an independent chapter to this topic in As-Siratul Mustaqim. The attributes of Allah are all attributes of Kamal, perfection. The names of Allah are all names that denote absolute perfection. He is attributed with all befitting perfection, clear of all non-befitting attributes. Perfection has several facets, several perspectives. Some qualities or attributes or ascriptions, meaning some words in the language, indicate perfection or excellence. Yani something good, a good quality. A word may have a general meaning of perfection or excellence and be said about Allah and others or not. A word may have a meaning of perfection or excellence and be said, this word could be said about Allah and about others. Or that might not be the case. Meaning that sentence holds three cases we just said. A word may have a meaning of perfection or excellence and be said about Allah and others or not. So it might be said about Allah and others, like knowledge, we're going to say. It means something good in both cases. Or not. What does or not mean? Or not means either said about Allah and not about others, or said about others and not about Allah. So those are your cases when it comes to words that have meaning, some sense of a good meaning. So there's words that have good meaning. You can attribute them to Allah and to other than Allah. And words that have a good meaning and you can attribute them to Allah only and not for other than Allah. And words that have a good meaning and you can only attribute them to other than Allah, not to Allah. So, a word may have a general meaning of perfection or excellence and be said about Allah and others, or not. The first is like knowledge. It is said about Allah and others, and is considered good in both cases. The difference is that the excellence or perfection of the creatures accepts development from one echelon to another, from one level to another. The excellence of the creatures accepts to go from one level to another. Their excellence is relative, that means comparable, and it varies and changes. What's their excellence? Like the knowledge of the creature. That's an excellence for a creature. So it's relative, it's comparable, and it varies and it changes. To the contrary, the attributes of Allah are all eternal. They do not develop. The eternal everlasting self is attributed with sight, hearing, speech, and other countless eternal everlasting attributes of befitting perfection. The attributes must be eternal because the self is eternal. He does not acquire an attribute that he did not have eternally, and he does not lose an attribute. He does not get better or worse. At-Tahawi said, مَا زَالَ بِصِفَاتِهِ قَدِيمًا قَبْلَ خَلْقِهِ. Having his attributes, he existed eternally before his creation. لم يزدد بكونهم شيئا لم يكن قبلهم من صفته. The existence of his creations did not add anything to his attributes that he was not attributed with eternally. وكما كان بصفاته أزليا كذلك لا يزال عليها أبديا. And just as he and his attributes are eternal, He and his attributes will always be everlasting. Our Shaykh said in the summary, فَلَمَّا ثَبَتَتِ الْأَزَلِيَّةُ لِذَاتِ اللَّهِ وَجَبَ أَن تَكُونَ صِفَاتُهُ أَزَلِيَّةً. Since eternity is confirmed to the self of Allah, then his attributes are eternal. لِأَنَّ حُدُوثَ الصِّفَةِ يَسْتَلْزِمُ حُدُوثَ الذَّاتِ. Because a created attribute entails that the attribute itself is created. It is not possible that the eternal self has a created attribute. From this, the scholar said that Allah is alive unlike the living things, powerful unlike powerful things, and willing unlike willing things, and knowledgeable unlike knowledgeable things, and none of his attributes resemble the attributes of the creations. The second has two cases. It would either be perfection for Allah and imperfection for the creature, or perfection for the creature and imperfection for Allah. So that's a word that has a good meaning. If you attribute it to Allah, though, could have a bad meaning for Allah. Or the other way, when you attribute it to Allah, it has a good meaning. When you attribute it to the slave, it has a bad meaning. The second would be either perfection for Allah and imperfection for the creature, or perfection for the creature and imperfection for Allah. Perfection for Allah and imperfection for the creature is like God's name, Al-Jabbar. When used for Allah, it means the one who corrects the matters of his creation, or the one whom no one can harm, and other things have been said. However, when the same word is used for the creation, it means unjust. Perfection for the creature and imperfection for Allah is like intelligence, good health, nice voice, and the like. For humans, these are perfections, but for Allah, they are imperfections. His attribute of Kamal is called Al-Azamah, greatness, Al-Ulu, highness or majesty, Al-Izzah, glory or magnificence, Al-Rif'ah, highness or majesty, Al-Kibriya, magnificence or awesomeness, and Al-Fawqiyah, highness and majesty. It is Allah's deserving the attributes of majesty, the ascriptions of majestic highness and perfection. That is his holiness beyond resemblance, and his exaltedness from the attributes of occurring things. It is his freedom of need, his glorification from imperfection, and his description of Godhood. Anyone who attributes a defect, or imperfection to Allah is not a Muslim. Like who claims that his knowledge increases, or that he has nearness or farness by location, or a shape. Insulting Allah by giving him a sister or a son is blasphemy, even if one does not believe that Allah has a sister or a son. It is blasphemy to believe that one can develop until he reaches the perfection of Allah. Wa subhanallahi wa bihamdihi.